Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're diving into something,
A little spooky.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
spooky, communicating with the dead.
Ooh.
But we're not talking like, Ouija boards or those fuzzy recordings you hear sometimes.
Right.
We're going right to a scientific research study.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this one is it's about all these messages received by this
Okay.
famous Brazilian medium, Chico Xavier.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's not just like, stories and stuff. It's like a full book called Life's Triumph
Wow.
with all these detailed case studies, like 45 of them.
That's a lot.
Yeah, they have like photos and copies of the messages, personal testimonies, like all the evidence you could want.
Oh, I love when they bring receipts.
Right.
So I guess for this deep dive, we're kind of putting on our detective hats and
Exactly.
going through all the evidence.
Yeah. Are these messages legit? Can they really hold up when you look at them closely? And like, what do they tell us about life after death? If they're real, I mean,
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Ha-
Big question. But first we got to address the usual suspects, right?
ooh, okay, like what?
Like fraud, cryptomnesia, like when you think you're remembering something, but you're actually just
Oh, yeah.
pulling it out from somewhere else.
Gotcha.
And even telepathy. We got to look at all that.
Okay, so how do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, I guess first we need to meet the man at the center of it all.
Right.
Yeah,
Every good mystery needs a good main character.
exactly.
So who is this Chico Xavier?
Imagine being a kid and not only seeing spirits, but they're dictating rhymes to you.
What?
That was Chico's life growing up in Brazil in the early 1900s.
Wow, okay. That's a very unique childhood.
Right.
Yeah.
And, even with all this hardship, he was poor growing up, all these challenges, he still spent 60 years doing something called automatic writing,
Okay.
basically becoming a conduit for spirits to communicate through his handwriting.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And he got all these awards for it, even got nominated for a Nobel Prize.
Wait, Nobel Prize for talking to dead people.
I know, right?
Okay, you've definitely got my attention now. So, you mentioned this automatic writing thing. What exactly is that?
So basically, you get this urge to write, but the words aren't really yours.
Hmm.
It's like someone else is guiding your hand, but you're still aware of what's being written.
Okay.
That's what Chico did. It's called semi-mechanical automatic writing.
Okay. I'm trying to picture that, like a ghost hand taking over mine. That's kind of cool and creepy at the same time.
Now,
But how do we know he wasn't just, making all this up? Was the research really that good to rule that out?
that's where the methodology gets really interesting. They didn't just take his word for it. They talked to all these families who received messages, like in-depth interviews, like 3 hours each.
3 hours.
Yeah, and they wrote down everything, looking for specific things they could check out themselves.
Oh, like what?
Names, dates, events, things that only the dead person could have known.
Right, so they were looking for those details that couldn't be explained away as coincidence or like he was tricking people?
Exactly.
Got it, okay. But was there anything about Chico himself that might make people believe him,
Well, I mean, he was getting these messages for decades. And he was known for being really simple and humble. He wasn't in it for the fame or money.
Right.
So it seems less likely he'd be making it up, right?
Okay, so we've got these research methods and a medium who seems credible. You've really set the stage here. Now, give me the good stuff,
Uh-huh. All right, all right.
the messages. What are some of the most interesting cases in this book?
Let's start with Volcamar Carvalho dos Santos. Get this, the dead person actually signed their name 5 times at the end of the message.
5 times! Seriously?
Yeah, and her mom confirmed that 3 of them looked just like her daughter's handwriting when she was alive.
Wow.
Oh, and get this, it's the only case in the whole study where that happened.
Okay, that's pretty wild. I'm starting to see why you called this a detective story. What else have we got?
Oh, there's this other one that gives me chills just thinking about it. This young guy named Carlos Alberto Santoro. He died in a plane crash when he was only 20.
Oh, wow.
But in his message, he claimed he'd already lived twice in the 20th century.
Like, are we talking reincarnation?
Well, it could be, right? He said his previous life ended during the Paulista Revolution of 1932.
Okay.
And get this, researchers actually found records that back up some of the details he gave about that past life.
Hold on. Past lives backed up by historical records? Okay, now this is officially mind-blowing.
Right.
I can't wait to hear what else this research uncovered.
We've only just scratched the surface. These messages aren't just about proving that someone's still out there. They give us glimpses into the afterlife and make us think about what consciousness even is.
Okay, I am officially hooked. What else is in these pages? Okay, I am still thinking about that past life thing.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, but you were saying that these messages, they offer more than just proof of survival.
Right.
What else can they tell us about, what's on the other side?
Well, we tend to picture, like, fluffy clouds and pearly gates.
Yeah.
But these messages are way more,
Okay.
like, human, I guess.
Oh, really? Tell me more. I want to hear all about this.
Well, one thing that keeps popping up is they have these really detailed descriptions of what it's actually like to die.
Like what it feels like to die.
Yeah, like Maria Teresa de Santamelo, she died from meningitis.
Oh, wow.
And she described the whole thing, like her illness getting worse, the pain, even the doctors trying to save her.
Wow.
And she didn't hold back. She said, "Ah, Mom, to say that this was natural to me is impossible. I cried a lot, and it took me a long time to have the necessary acceptance."
Wow. That's really powerful and so real, like even in death, we're still us with our own emotions and everything.
Exactly. And a lot of messages also talk about how what the living are feeling can actually impact the dead.
Wait, really? So like if I'm super sad about someone, it can actually affect them in the afterlife.
That's what these messages seem to say, yeah. Like negative emotions, grief, despair, that can cause them distress. But things like positive thoughts, prayers, even doing good deeds for others, that can help them.
That's almost like our love can reach them even after they're gone.
Yeah, I like that. And it goes along with another theme we see a lot, this idea that we're meant for something bigger, even after this life.
What do you mean?
Well, like Jar Prissy Bonfim, he died in a fire. Really tragic.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and in his message, he talks about how important it is to help those who are more unhappy than you.
Okay.
He said, the land of goodness is ready for new seeds.
So it's not just about us, it's about making things better for others.
Exactly. Our purpose doesn't just stop when we die. And it's not like these are all saints or gurus or anything. These are everyday people.
Yeah, that makes it more real for the rest of us, right?
Totally. So it makes you think, if they can find meaning on the other side, maybe there's hope for all of us.
Yeah, maybe so. Is there anything about the people who communicated through Chico, like any pattern?
Well, there were messages from people of all ages, teenagers to people in their 70s. But a lot of them, like over a third, were young adults, 18 to 25.
Oh, wow. That's so sad.
Yeah, it really is.
How did most of them die?
Mostly accidents, like car crashes, plane crashes, drownings. It really makes you think about how quickly things can change.
It does. And those messages, did any of them really surprise you?
There's one that sticks out, Jose Roberto Pereira Casiano. He died in a car accident too.
Oh, wow.
And he talked about waking up in this spiritual morgue.
Oh, what?
Yeah, spiritual morgue. Said he was totally disoriented, had no idea what was going on.
That's kind of creepy.
Right. But here's the thing. He said there were these, like, doctors and nurses, but from the spiritual realm.
Okay.
And they helped him understand what was happening.
So it wasn't all bad.
Seems like there's help on the other side, yeah.
Okay, that's good, even though that morgue thing is still kind of freaking me out.
I get it. Yeah. But you know what I found really interesting? A lot of them describe the afterlife as this place where you never stop learning and growing.
So it's not just like sitting on clouds and playing harps.
Nope. They talked about going to schools, doing meaningful work, even hobbies, but in new ways.
Really? So like I could still paint after I die?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's not the heaven and hell we usually picture. It's something way more dynamic.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned earlier that some of the messages gave advice to the people still living.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Remember Mr. Waldemar Teixeira de Silva?
The one whose son, Paulo Eduardo, died.
Yeah, they thought it was suicide at first.
Right.
Well, Mr. de Silva was just devastated, didn't understand what happened.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And then he gets this message from Paulo Eduardo through Chico. And Paulo Eduardo saying he didn't kill himself, that he's at peace now.
Oh, wow. That must have been such a relief for his dad.
Definitely. But here's the amazing part. The message made Mr. de Silva take another look at the evidence. He pushed for another investigation, and guess what? It turns out Paulo Eduardo was murdered.
Are you serious? So the message not only helped his dad, but it also helped find the truth.
Exactly. It's crazy, right? Like, those messages can have a real impact on the world, not just emotionally.
I have to say, I was pretty skeptical coming into this. But these stories, and with the research behind them, it's hard to just ignore them.
I know what you mean. It's not every day you hear something that challenges everything you thought you knew about reality.
It's a lot to take in. But that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
For sure. It makes you think about all the possibilities, even the ones we don't understand yet.
So where do we go from here? We've talked about death, support from the other side, past lives, even spiritual morgues. Is there something that connects all of this? A bigger message?
It is a lot to take in, like trying to put together a puzzle.
Mm,
But the pieces are all from different dimensions.
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. But if we, zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture.
Right.
What can we learn from all of this?
Right.
One thing that really stands out to me is how many of these messages talk about love and compassion. Like, those are the most important things.
Okay.
Not just in this life, but maybe even beyond. It's like those qualities are even more important after we die.
That's a nice thought, yeah, especially with all the bad stuff happening in the world.
Right.
It's not always easy to be loving and compassionate, though, is it?
You're telling me?
Yeah.
But that's what so many of these messages are about, this idea that we need to keep growing and learning even after we're gone.
Yeah, okay.
They say challenges are like opportunities to become better people, to be more understanding and compassionate. Remember Landa Villela de Castro?
Yeah.
She actually thanked the pain she went through because it helped her overcome challenges in life.
I do remember that, yeah. It's like a totally different way of looking at things, isn't it?
Totally. And this idea of helping others, that comes up a lot too.
Yeah.
Like Jer Preste Bonfim saying, we need to help those more unhappy than you.
Right.
It's like he's saying we all need to be doing something to make things better for everyone.
Yeah, it's like we're all connected somehow, even if we don't realize it.
Exactly. And think about it. A lot of the communicants talked about still feeling connected to the people they loved who were still alive.
Okay.
Like they were aware of their thoughts and feelings and could even help them from the other side.
Yeah, I remember that case. Walter Perone.
Right.
He said he could see his mom struggling with guilt after he died.
Yeah. And he said his first job in the afterlife was to help her through that.
That's wild. It really makes you think about what's possible.
Right. I'm starting to see why Chico's work has such an impact on people.
Me too. It's comforting, it gives people hope, and helps them make sense of things, But I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, if these messages are real, it changes everything.
It really makes you rethink things, doesn't it?
Yep.
Like, what are our priorities? And what if life is way bigger and more connected than we ever imagined?
Yeah, it really does. It's a lot to think about. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think it comes down to this. Whether you believe all of this or not, those messages encourage us to live with purpose, to be kind and loving, and to try to make a difference in the world.
Okay.
Because even if we don't know for sure what happens after we die, those are things that make our lives better right now.
That's a great point. And I keep thinking back to that question you asked earlier about consciousness.
Right.
If these messages are true, it means consciousness isn't just something that happens in our brains, it's something more.
Yeah, that's a big question, one we might never have a clear answer to.
True. But it's worth thinking about, isn't it? As we go through life, learning and exploring.
Absolutely. To all our listeners out there, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah. Who knows what we might find.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, we hope this gave you all something to think about and maybe even got you excited about the possibilities out there.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those minds open.